Hey y'all, Chef Dave here. Welcome to my kitchen, where I'm going to show you how to make great meals for your family. I'm excited to be a part of your culinary journey. Let's have fun. Tonight for dinner we're going to have pizza, and the most important part of pizza is the dough. Our ingredients for our dough is 1 cup of warm water, about 100 to 110 degrees, 1 package or 0.25 ounces of yeast. It's going to be, mine's instant yeast. You can use active dry yeast. I have a teaspoon of white granulated sugar. We're going to portion out 2.5 cups of bread flour. We're using bread flour because it's going to have a sturdier chew. We have 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil and 1 teaspoon of salt. That's it. When you're not weighing flour and you're measuring it out with a measuring cup, you want to make sure that it's not packed in, it's really loose. And you're going to scoop it, just run a knife over it to make sure it's level. That's not quite level, so I'll scoop a little bit more. We're not going to pack it in, we're not going to push it down or anything like that. We're just going to put it in there nice and loose. So I'm just going to mix the salt in with the flour. Give it a little whisk to make sure it's incorporated. We're going to let that sit. Okay, we have our cup of warm spring water. We're going to temp it, make sure it's between 100 and 110. It's exactly 105. Awesome. So we're going to add our sugar to that and our yeast. This is called blooming the yeast. The yeast is going to start eating the sugar. I forgot my fork. Anyway, it's going to start eating the sugar and releasing carbon dioxide. That's what causes the dough to rise. So we're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. You see how that yeast is foaming up on top? That means that it's active. If it's not doing that, you need new yeast. Okay, I'm over to my stand mixer now. I'm going to turn it on low. I'm going to add the yeast mixture to the flour mixture that I put in the bowl. I'm going to add the olive oil. I'm going to let this, I'm going to turn it up 1 notch. I'm going to let this mix until it's incorporated, and then I'm going to let it knead for about 5 minutes. It's very important to build up that gluten structure to let it knead for about 5 minutes. So when the dough comes together like this and starts cleaning the sides of the bowl, that's when my timer starts for 5 minutes. Okay, the dough's finished kneading. I'm going to get a bowl and spray it with some cooking spray. And I'm going to get my bowl scraper and get this pizza dough out of here. There you go. So I'm going to take this dough, kind of make it into a ball. I'm going to spray the top of it with some cooking spray. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap. We're going to let this sit. I put it in the oven for about 30 minutes, but the light's on only, no heat. So that'll help it to rise. So I have the dough in the oven, no heat on, just the light. I'm going to leave it there for about 30 minutes. 30 minutes is up, and as you can see, the dough has risen a little bit. So it's time to pull it out and make a pizza. Alright, I've got my oven preheating to 425. I'm going to pour a little bit of olive oil on here on my sheet pan. You can use a pizza stone if you have one. I just don't have one, so I just use a sheet pan. You can use whatever you got. Cookie sheet. I'm going to take my dough. Oh, it feels good. Nicely risen dough. And I'm just going to press it out into the shape and the thickness that I want. If you want a crust on the edges, you leave the edges a little bit thicker. This is pretty basic, but the dough is excellent. It really is. Alright, so I'm going to let that rest for a minute because we've been messing with it and activating the gluten. But I want to get our toppings and ingredients to put on it. Okay, I'm going to use whatever I have on hand for this pizza. You can use whatever you want. I had some marinara in the fridge. So we're going to spread this out thin. It's not about the sauce. I know some people will hate me for saying that, but it's about the crust. Sauce and cheese, you need to go lightly. Try to make it even. You don't want any big globs of sogginess. So I've got some pepperonis. Who doesn't love pepperoni pizza? I know I do. Okay. I don't have mozzarella or Parmesan. I just have Monterey cheese, which is probably my favorite semi-domestic cheese. So I'm just going to put some Monterey on it. It melts really well anyway. Scatter it over the top of your... There's my pizza. So let that sit there until my oven comes to temp, and then we'll put it in. Okay, my oven is almost to temp, so, oh, there it is. Let's put this pizza in the oven. I'm going to put it in there until the edges are kind of bubbly, the cheese is starting to bubble and brown, and the toppings are done. Once my pizza is mostly done, I'm going to take it off of the sheet pan and put it directly on the rack in the oven so that it can crisp up on the bottom also. If you're not using a pizza stone or a brick oven or something like that, the bottom of it's going to be kind of gooey until you get enough heat on it to crisp it up. So cook the pizza until the dough sets enough where you can put it on the rack without making a gooey mess, and then put it on the rack and let it cook like that until you get the desired doneness of the crust. Alright, you see the bubbly goodness of the pizza. I'm going to check the bottom of it. That looks pretty good, So we're there. Let's pull this thing out of the oven. So I'm going to take my sheet pan and my spatula. I'm going to get this pizza back on here, just like that. Okay, have my cutting board ready. Always have a towel under your cutting board, wet towel, that way it won't move. Got my knife. You're probably saying, this guy didn't have a pizza cutter? All my stuff's at my commercial kitchen, so I need to buy a double of everything. So I'm going to take my pizza, get it out here on the cutting board. That, and just cut it in whatever sizes you want. Be sure to let it cool off enough before you stick it in your pie hole, your pizza pie hole, so you don't burn yourself. I think that's good enough for now. I'm going to cut some more pieces this way, and then I'll have the rest for breakfast tomorrow. We have our ranch dressing homemade, and we have Chef Dave's awesome sauce. Good on everything. Highly recommend it. Alright, we'll get this plated up in just a second. And there you go, the final product. Homemade pizza with homemade ranch and Chef Dave's awesome sauce. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you're inspired to make something great. Good day and God bless.